What is up, Atlanta? What is up, Internet? What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Uncut with Jeb Hart. As I'm sure you noticed, I am Jeb Hart, and as always, we are presented by Old Dominic. I'm not working on the whiskey. It's a little early. I went with the vodka like a gentleman does. We are here today to preview the upcoming match against a team we have never beaten. To be fair, they haven't beaten us, but also to be even more fair, we've never played them. The newcomers, which we just recently were, Cincinnati FC. So I brought on a gentleman from Cincy Soccer Talk to help us out. Some call him the voice of reason. Some call him the Wolfman. People call him Mr. Wolf, I probably assume. Probably his kids. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Wolf. Bill, thank you.
Hey, great to be here. Yeah, I think my kids have different names for me than Mr. Wolf.
Behind your back.
Exactly. And just to clarify, FC Cincinnati instead of Cincinnati FC.
You know what? That's a mea culpa, and this is I'm not going to edit that out. That was me being wrong, and we all learn from stuff.
Exactly. Get the story straight.
Well, because every time I type it in on Twitter, I feel like I'm typing in like FCC, like the people who are going to edit me. So I always feel like it's a little bit – because I know they go FC Cincy, which is a better tag, but I see where it is. But either way, y'all are entering into your maiden voyage into the MLS after putting up more points than anybody else in, USL history. I know y'all fell a little bit short, but I mean, the regular season was something to write home to the kids about. So, I guess let's just get started before we get into the game. Let's just kind of talk about what your hopes and dreams are, and what, basically, simply put, what would this year end like, and you say that was a success?
Well, that's going to be my opinion, of course. But, obviously we had a great last season in the USL. We would have loved to have maybe had a deeper Open Cup run, deeper MLS or USL Cup run for sure. But, it was as far as, the Supporter Shield goes, or they call it the regular season champion or whatever it is in the USL, that was phenomenal. Definitely was a lot of work to get to that point in a lot of games. So we were excited by it. As far as moving into the MLS, I don't think many of us have, what would you call it, sort of false dreams that this is like a baby step. I think the distance between the USL and the MLS is large, and I'm not saying that it's not steppable, but there is a gap there, and we've seen clubs like Minnesota come into the league and struggle coming from a D2 to a D1, and we expect to do the same. We certainly are not in LA. We are not in New York. We don't have the kinds of fans and resources that some of these larger clubs, your own included, have. So we feel pretty good about our ownership, and we feel pretty good about our city, but we know this is going to be tough. So what makes it a success for me? I think that we're at least in the playoff run, and truly for me, I would love for us to be that 6th, 7th team in. I don't have aspirations for anything much higher than that. I think that's asking too much year one with such a new team. But if we could slide into 6 or 7, even if we fall to 8, but it looks challenging right up to the end, I'm not going to be too upset about it. But if we're at the bottom like we are right now, that's going to be a disappointing year.
And I know there's been, in the last couple of the expansion teams to come in, there's been 2 pretty set in stone models. It's the Atlanta LAFC model, and it's the Minnesota model, and it seems to look like that you're following more into the Minnesota model of I believe as you said, 11 USL players coming up doing it. That's 10 with an asterisk, because one of those USL players is Adi. So let's call it 10. Yeah. Don't be silly, people. So you're getting into this competition. Obviously, you've gone around, and I think the biggest question that so many people had was, I don't want to use an old-timey word, but the relatively kind of peculiar nature with which the roster's been constructed. Obviously, it's close to about 1/4 of the salary. Obviously, the metrics aren't completely perfect because the MLS is pretty dodgy about salaries and stuff like that. But it's been on on Adi, who's had some success, obviously with Portland, but prior to getting traded out, was kind of struggling in form, and gone heavy on the defense and basically have tried to slow step it in. So I know you haven't walked into this year with the assumption that you're going to be Shield contenders or hoist MLS Cup. It's a slow build, and then that's a sustainable model, and it's very doable, and people have done it. But is it where in the way your roster is structured now do you see issues? Because I love Adi. I think he's a great player, but he's a player that requires – he's not a guy that gets goals on his own. He is not a shot creator. He needs that service. Do you have the ability around him to make Adi be what Adi can be?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, and one that I think we've been asking ourselves for a while now. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this probably as we get going a little further down here, but we're starting off similar to you guys, where we don't have our home base, right? We're playing in a college football stadium, and as great as that home has been for us, it limits us resource wise. We don't have the naming rights. We don't have concessions, parking, various other things that could bring additional revenue into our club, and that affects at some level what we can do from a roster standpoint. And going into this season, we kind of expected it was going to be rough. I mean, we were going to be looking for value players. We weren't going to have big name stars. We weren't going to be making any $10 million signings or anything like that. And we've been true to that. I think that's been realistic. I think it's fair, on our technical staff's part to decide to go defensive, to build from the back. If you look at historically clubs that do well, they have strong defenses. That's not to say that they can't score goals. It's just to say that teams that are weak on defense, it doesn't matter how good your offense is. Eventually, people get more in than you, and it tends not to go. You can't just attack, right? You have to be able to defend. And the teams that can defend, the ones that can reduce chances, do well. Now, as you said, what do we do with Adi? Because he's up top. He's obviously a name. He's somebody that we expect to produce for us. We obviously paid him a significant amount of money. And, as we built from the back and we have all these, great defenders, Garza, obviously you guys are very familiar with. We brought in Powell from Portland, who's, obviously even a teammate of Adi's. We brought in Waston. We picked up Hagelin from Toronto. We started, picking up all these defenders, even some from overseas. And, you're thinking, okay, we got a decent back line. My issue is the midfield. And I think we have some exciting players there. I'm just not sure yet if they're going to click and they're going to be the ones to transition the ball from the back up to Adi. We certainly need some wing players, though. Looking at Adi, I don't know that he's really traditionally like a big number 9. I mean, he's a big guy, but he's not the guy that you launch a long ball to and he holds it up and he turns and he spins and he kicks the ball in. He needs somebody who's going to, play balls through to the back of defenses and let him run onto it and do things with it. So yeah, we need some wing players. Lamaz out there. He's looked kind of exciting, but I think we're still trying to find some pieces. Obviously we just signed Kenny Safe yesterday. That's looking, promising. We brought
it's a safe play.
It's a safe play. Yeah. He's going to be, he's probably, up there kind of with Adi as far as finances. Again, as you said, it's hard to get information on these things, but he, he's a significant signing for us. We had Kenny Mana. We brought in, not Kenny Mana. I'm sorry. We brought in Kenny Safe, brought in Mana. I haven't seen much yet from him to get an idea, but there's some speed there. So he might be another player, but again, I think where we're going to struggle, and we'll talk about this as well, I'm sure, but where we're struggling is these guys don't know each other. And especially when you're talking about your front line, all the creativity that's required to get behind defenses, they're not on the same page yet. They're dropping balls into space and the other guy's not there. So we'll get there. But.
I mean, obviously you have a lot of defenders, and I know that a lot of people on our end will want to know and talk about Greg Garza, but just Greg Garza was a defender who, in half the games we played, I'd, be at the stadium. I'd look down at my phone for half a second, look up, and he'd be on the corner of the 18 in about 5. So he's he was playing left back, but not really. I mean, he was a surging left back that was there all the time. So if y'all are struggling at it at any point, I'd say throw him at just a proper left wing and just see how it shakes out, 'cause he's got it. But I mean, and Greg Garza we miss him very dearly. It was such a weird conundrum for everybody in Atlanta, because he was one of the greatest guys, a great bridge builder between the cultural aspects of it, and we hated to see him go. But he also was the guy that was kind of standing in the way of George Bello, our 16 now 17-year-old academy kid going it. So it was this weird, we hate to see you go. We want Bello to get his chance, but Bello wasn't as good, or will never learn to develop if Greg Garza's there, because Greg Garza is an absolute player. And so it was a very weird mix of emotions for us. And so we wish him all the best. I know he's in good hands, so that's very nice. But I mean, I think with Cincinnati going forward and transitioning from the USL to the MLS, there's a lot of changes, and we're kind of going through the same thing with a new head coach and so there's these uncertainties. They can play out, they can manifest themselves in two different ways. You can work it out behind the scenes and become awesome, and the teams don't have any tape on how you're going to play, and they don't know what to expect, or it could just be a catastrophe on the field because you don't know what you're doing either. So we don't have any, prior to this game, that we're going to play this weekend, outside of the game y'all played last week, I don't know who y'all are, what y'all are going to play, how y'all are going to attack based on, I mean, the sample size is one.
Yeah.
So I mean, how do you think that, based on the roster construction, obviously it's heavily defensive. And so, you're trying, and we had kind of discussed this before, but, you don't want to be embarrassed in your first year and you want to work your way in. How do you think that they're going to attack that game in Atlanta? Because they went from the second highest, attendance and, fan base, in the stadium in Seattle. Now they're going to the Benz in front of 72,000 people back to back. I mean, it's a little different than, playing at, I know Louisville City was a rival, but I don't think they had 72,000. So,
No,
I mean,
they were lucky to get 10.
So. Yeah. So, I mean, it's different. So, I mean, how do you think that they're going to attack this game? And how do you think that the 11 and a half USL players that, let's call it 10 because Adi's been a part of it. How do you think those guys who haven't been a part of this moment are going to handle it?
There's a lot of questions in there.
Yeah, sorry, I rambled.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So I think first off, it is interesting the change from USL to MLS. Obviously, we were the big fish in the little pond, and now we're the little fish in the big pond. In the USL, Louisville, I think was the second largest attendance. If not, it was Indy. I'm not sure which one it was, but they were both around 10,000 average attendance, and we were essentially 20, right? So, double that. And I was trying to remember if we were 25 or not, but I'm starting to lose track of these numbers. They become less important as we moved along. And I guess we were 25. So, but regardless, when clubs would come to our stadium, right? It was exciting to play in Nippert. They were thrilled to death to be there. They'd take selfies and pictures, and they'd take pictures of the crowd, and it was fun to kind of watch them because this was like their big moment. Well, MLS, they certainly gave us a taste of what it has. Welcome to the league, right? You play Seattle, then you play Atlanta. I mean, if you can't pick two better venues to see what can be, I don't know what that would be. I mean, they're both phenomenal venues, both phenomenal crowds, both exciting. So our players were probably taking selfies. I have no idea, but they were probably thrilled to death to be there. And certainly, playing in front of 25,000 people on average prepares you somewhat, but 70,000 is a whole nother level. And it'll be interesting to see how they react. Now, you mentioned the USL players, and we talk briefly, you've got around the idea of the Minnesota versus the Atlanta kind of roster build. And I think we've taken a lot of maybe I want to say Heat or Flack or whatever for these 10 USL players, as you said, not really 11, but we brought, 11 players forward, 10 of them, more USL. I don't know if you want to call a Lachey a USL player since we got him from San Jose, but regardless, it was a significant number. The reality is one of those players actually played against Seattle. And that was Corbin Bone. And all the rest of them were on the bench and they're more backups at this time. So, we've brought in Garza, we've brought in Powell, we brought in Hagen, we brought in Waston. We got a Polish keeper, Teton. We've got Bertoni and Yoa and Alexander.
Maddox kills us.
Maddox.
We have had some issues with Maddox in the past.
Yeah. Oh, he's a lot of fun to watch. His speed, his technical ball skills. He's a terror. I have to say, I absolutely have loved, and this comes back to another part of what you brought up about, do we know this team? Do we know what to expect? We don't know what to expect. So in the preseason, we basically lined up like you guys. We were a 3-4-3. And I think we played every preseason game in IMG and every preseason game in the Carolina Challenge Cup as a 3-4-3. And then 4 days before Seattle, I think because of personnel issues that we had some injuries. We lost Justin Hoyt to a hamstring maybe. But anyway, we lost him to injury. We made the adjustment to 4 in the back, went to a 4-2-3-1. Obviously it's a very common formation. It's not something that people should be like, oh, I don't know anything about how to work in this, but it was different. And certainly all the chemistry that you're trying to create on a new team, you lose a lot of that when you make that kind of a sudden change without a lot of time to adjust to it. So, I don't know what we're going to end up with when we show up in Atlanta. I mean, if Greg Garza is healthy and he's been questionable for a while, but he keeps talking about, I'd love to get on the pitch, and the coach is saying if he's ready, he will start, and those kinds of things. So there's definitely, and he's training. So, I think there's a possibility that he takes the pitch, and then all of a sudden we have this additional left wing back, and do we go back to a 3-4-3 and send him up to the 18, as you said, and see what happens, or do we roll out with a 4-2-3-1 like we did last weekend? I have no idea what's going to happen. So, and I've rambled, and I don't even know what I've said at this point as far as answering all your questions.
You answered them, but you can have our 3-4-3. Frank DeVore is pretty. He's sticking to his guns, and I try really hard in all aspects of my life not to be overly reactionary, because you wait. It's like you hear a news story, whatever it is, and everyone jumps on that person. And it's an allegation that turns out to be completely – I need to see it shake out. But this 3-4-3 we're running, and obviously the game that we played against Monterrey, they're the best team on the continent right now. And we held them up until the 82nd minute outside of a soft penalty on their ground. And
yeah, that was rough.
But I don't want to talk about it. It's not a big deal. Honestly, I don't even know what you're discussing. I don't know why I brought it up. It's kind of an amnesia thing. No, it's just, the 3-4-3, the way we have it set up now, it's just it puts Josef Martinez on an island, which is where we want him, but there's nobody there to give him the ball and let him do – like, you have the best player, the best goal scorer in MLS history in a single season. Your job for that entire team should be to get the ball to him and just see what happens, because – history has dictated that if you get it to him in the 18, more than likely something decent will turn of it. And this formation hasn't really shaken out great for us. And obviously with the rotation of players within the CCL and the start of the MLS, and because we played that first game against DC, and I didn't take much from it. I mean, it was rainy, it was gross, we had a weird lineup, but the thing I took most from both that game and the game we played against Monterrey was how incredibly important Julian Gressel is. Like, Julian Gressel, it might be one of the best draft picks. I mean, because he went from a kid from Providence College who's a draft pick who, when his contract's up, he might be getting DP money bought down to town real quick, because he deserves it. And we're lucky to have him, and he was missing from both of those games, and his speed on that wing has been – so, I don't know if he's going to be back for the Cincy game or if they're going to try to hold him until the Monterey. And that's like, this game has so many question marks because of that. I mean, there's some injury stuff. There's who's going to play because we have a game at home against Monterey 3 days later. So I mean, it's just no. We're previewing a game. We're both sitting here talking into microphones, talking, but I don't think either of us have a freaking clue.
No, I would love to be a fly on the wall, you know, in the locker room for Atlanta right now to figure out not so much like all the details, but just what's the thought process right now. I mean, you know, do you focus on the CONCACAF Champions League? Do you focus on the MLS? I mean, obviously the MLS is a long-term thing. You got quite a bit of time. You don't need to win every game at, you know, at the beginning of the season. CONCACAF, and you lose and basically you're out. So, you know, desire to maybe win there would make some sense. But then, of course, you know, last night was kind of a rough result. And, you know, do you think you can recover that at home? You know, if you do you go for it, you know, in a week? And if you do, you definitely need to rest players against us, which, you know, would make me happy. But at the same time, you know, maybe when you say, you know, 3-0, can we recover that? Let's just not worry about it right now. And let's try to go for Cincinnati and, you know, get a win. Cause, you know, you guys obviously have had a slow start to the season like we have. And both of us would love to get a win. But, you know, even if you wanted to go for it, you know, you just played back-to-back games with pretty similar lineups. So, you know, I think there's players on your roster that I would imagine are pretty tired. So I have no idea what to expect when we get there. I would love to have some idea of what the coaches are thinking.
I'll tell you that more than likely Tito Villalba will be in the starting lineup against Cincinnati because he didn't get much run, and I'm furious that he did not get in, you know, earlier in that game in Monterey. But I mean, I can tell you this just from our side of it: they have put every egg in that Champions League basket, and when Monterey comes to the Benz next Wednesday, they're down 3-0, but, you know, there's no away goal. I mean, they obviously not against competition like that, but they have won a whole lot more games in their history by more than 3 goals than they've lost by more than 3 goals. And they're going to go for it. So, I mean, I think that the lineup you'll see against Cincinnati when it shows up, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see. I mean, I think it'll be Bello. I think it'll be Villalba, and I think PT probably won't start. I don't think Gressel will start just because of the, you know, ankle injury. They don't want him to aggravate it prior to that. But I'm interested to see how it shakes out because, like, I'm with you. None of us know anything because it's so condensed. There's so much going on, and it's all how it goes. But even and not to be, you know, overly confident about it, but I think that, you know, with Tito Villalba and the rest of the people that are coming there, I think that they still have even with the, you know, bench team has a slight advantage over the, you know, Cincinnati A team. Obviously, we're new to a coach, but they're kind of new as a team as a whole.
Absolutely.
How do you foresee this shaking out?
So prediction. We have what we call our Growler Cup in Cincinnati Soccer Talk. So every week, all of the staff predict what we think the score is going to be of the game, and we invite all of our supporters to make predictions, and then we kind of keep a little, you know, run going, and, you know, who's the best predictor and all that stuff. So I literally just submitted my Growler Cup guess last night, and, you know, based on this, I'm in agreement with you. I think you guys are going to go for the CONCACAF Champions League. I think, you know, that, you know, even if this result doesn't go your way with the MLS, you've got 32 more games, and you're going to focus and put everything into the CONCACAF Champions League. Besides the fact, I think you need to rest players. I just, you know, they can only do so much. I mean, you guys are playing like 5 games in 2 weeks. It's crazy for the start of the preseason with everybody's out of fitness. You know, they're just now getting into fitness, and you got to play 5 games in a row. But, you know, I think that gives us an advantage. It certainly makes me happy. From an FCC fan, but again, I don't think, you know, we're so new. Our guys are still learning each other. You can see great ideas that the other guy didn't get until it was too late. The ball goes here and he goes there, and nothing happens, and it happens over and over again. And that's going to change as we go forward. But right now we are definitely rough at times. And I predicted 1-1. So I'm a positive guy on FCC. I tend to go for wins most of the time, but I'm also trying to be very realistic this season. And I'm hoping with you guys rolling out kind of your B squad, who should be a solid squad. You guys have a lot of depth, and then our new squad. I hope we squeeze one out, and that defense will shore up a little bit after last game in Seattle, and we'll see at least not a loss for our second game.
We can agree to disagree. I'm confident on it. Just at home, they do play. I mean, we get a lot of shtick for the playing in Mercedes-Benz and from a bunch of these soccer uppity people with the non-soccer specific stadium or whatever. It is the widest field allowed by FIFA. I mean, we have the seats that retract, and it is a wide, fast, quick pitch that we thrive on. And obviously, with you got 70,000 people there telling you to go sports well, it doesn't hurt. So I mean, I think that at home they need an emotional boost, given what just happened a couple of days ago and the travel and everything else. I think there's a couple of guys that stay behind. So I mean, it could go one of two ways. I think it could 1-1. I wouldn't be blown away by if they send out Carlton, Bello, Lagos, Kung. If they go for a full rest everybody, then that's a different situation because we're making predictions based on a lineup we have no idea. Yep. But if they put something out reasonable, I think they just need the morale boost to know they can do it. Because after that first game at Herediano, it was one of those. I mean, because last year our first game against Houston, we got boat raced, and because we had a really good year, everybody was thinking positive, and then our first game against Houston just laid an egg, and everyone's kind of looking around, like, I thought we were going to be good. Like I had a feeling we were supposed to be good. I thought we were going to be good, but that wasn't good. That was terrible. And then it escalated up. So you get that little bit of confidence going, and I think they might try to use this to shake it out. But Frank de Boer does shift players more than Tata did, because Tata basically said you can rest when you're dead. I mean, we were in that because we had that switch from Bobby Dodd to Mercedes-Benz to where we had that very condensed end-of-the-year schedule. And there were several games where we played 3 games in a week, and it was the same starting lineup. Maybe like 1 or 2 changes. But, I mean, it was – I mean, Tata was like, they are professional players. They didn't make them practice as much, but they're going to go play. So, I mean, I don't know what to expect, but I think that I hope we can get it done just for the confidence boost aspect of it alone to go into a very daunting task of taking on probably the best team in the continent at the Benz on Wednesday. But we are so happy to have y'all in the league. The support that y'all have shown in the lower division has been something that we've watched from afar and really admired. And I think that it's incredibly deserving for y'all to be here. I hope that y'all have as much success as possible outside of this weekend. I think that
and one more weekend.
We'll cross that bridge later. We could be far enough ahead to where we can kind of toss you a charity one. I don't want to. We're nice people. It's Southern hospitality. We'll see. Mate, we'll see. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. No, no. We've all seen it from afar, and it's been an unbelievable organic growth and solid supporters culture and solid just fan interaction and just a great club along the way. I do want to ask you a personal thing as far as the branding of the club. Were you obviously, I know, and a lot of people out here don't know this, like USL owned those badges that were there. So Nashville just released their new badge, which is trash. Y'all did a much better job with the redesign than that. But,
absolutely agree with you 100%. Nashville is trash.
Nashville's
badge is trash.
It is awful, awful. I mean, when I first saw it on a hat, I thought it was like one of those weird designs where it was like we have hats that just have the A on it. That's like the gold, and I was like, okay, maybe that's just like some weird redesign. Then I found out that was the actual badge, and I was like, oh, that's not going to do it, because their first one was fine with the SC but so the USL owns them. So when you progress to the MLS, you have to create a new badge and do this. So what are your thoughts on the redesign? Because I actually really do like it.
Yeah, it had a lot of controversy here in Cincinnati. I think the interesting thing about Cincinnati is we like to fight. So we like to fight with other people. You know, we want to win. We're gonna take you on. We're gonna try to become, you know, the best or whatever. We also like to fight with each other. So, you know, we go off and create a new badge, and no matter what it is, half the city's going to hate it, and they're going to fight with each other and tell each other that it's garbage. But no, I really like it, honestly. I like that it's very clean. It's very simple. It's fairly bright. I like that there's a lot of white in it. There is maybe one thing that somebody pointed out to me that kind of, now that I see it, it was like, but it looks very derivative of the MLS badge, right? With the slash through the middle. And, you know, so if you know, when you do the MLS, you take the two colors from the MLS and you got the blue and the orange, and you put our badge up there with the slash and the blue and the orange. It's like, they kind of do look a little bit the same. That was a little disappointing, but you know, beyond that, I still think it was nice. I think they really cleaned up. They kept a lot of the same concepts. They didn't just go completely off board. So, you know, we had our winged lion, instead of kind of being this cartoon pig panther walking on two legs kind of thing. Now it really looks like a lion, maybe a little more ferocious and a little less kid-like, which is cool. You know, I think, you know, the fact that Cincinnati is very bold in it is very important to me. When I look at other cities, you know, I look at their badge, their logos, I really wanted to just say, I'm from here. You know, I want it to be very clear, you know, what city are you part of? And I think you guys it's just classic. I mean, the round, I mean, you just know it has that classic look to it. I think that's another way to go. Ours is maybe a little more modern. But, you know, all in all, I'm happy with the branding. I'm happy with the colors. We definitely needed to change the colors, and you wouldn't have seen this because obviously you wouldn't have watched a lot of USL games, but we had this shade of orange. It was truly orange. I mean, if you were standing in front of a player looking at their jersey, it was orange. But when it ended up on TV, it looked almost as red as your scarf. It was really weird. It just didn't come off as orange. So everybody would call us like red and blue if they were watching broadcasts, you know, and you know, because they're watching monitors and they're saying, no, you can see Cincinnati in red and blue, and we're like, we're not red, you know, we're orange. But it didn't come that way. I think we did fix that a little bit with our colors now. So the orange is coming off more orange. We're you know, we have our identity back, which is good.
So do you like the new MLS debut kits? Because I like them a little bit. The blue, the blue kind of, I believe it's the home one. Yeah. It looks like y'all were going for the kind of the stripe look, but then the printer ran out of ink about halfway through.
Yeah. I think people really like them, to be honest, and I don't have really an issue with it. It's not maybe like I think it's the coolest thing in the world. I think where I hear the most complaints about our kits are the away kits. We went with a white away kit, and it's literally just white.
Oh, Adidas got so lazy. I mean, Colorado's, yours. It is a white T-shirt it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's a white T-shirt, and then we did white shorts, and you know, other than a badge on it, there's not much to it. I think where I'm struggling with the kits, and I'm probably being really petty about this, but you know, we couldn't get a true kit. Just the timing was too close. We couldn't get it turned around with Adidas fast enough. So you can't go out and get a genuine FCC kit, and even our players aren't playing in.
They're playing in replicas.
They're playing in replicas.
Yeah. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, right? So they are replicas, and I understand that, and I understand we couldn't get the whole thing, you know, through the 2-year process that Adidas requires to generate a new kit, which seems ridiculous to me, but whatever. But when the players play, from what I understand, is they have kind of a special version of the kit where they have an MLS badge on both shoulders, you know, stitched on. They have their the badge and it's stitched on, and they have the, you know, whatever it is, the, this first year kind of badge on the bottom or something. It's all stitched and they're like metallic logos and, very high quality customization of the badges and the logos and all that stuff. When they turn around and they sell them to the fans, it's truly a replica kit. You only get one badge for the MLS. Our badge is just a press on. I already have a friend who's just peeling off. They're the cheap kits, and I understand. I should be happy because I'm paying less, but at the same time, I'd rather pay a little more and actually know that I'm getting a quality product that has the high quality logos and such. So that's my issue. Is I wish there was a little higher quality version of it, just because I know we couldn't get the top one, but come on.
I mean, we had our own kind of kit gate and Stargate and a bunch of other issues that came up with for everybody out there. But I've yet to stake my claim on this. I think the new kits are awesome. I don't care if you don't like the tramp stamp. Rules are rules. They won't let you have stripes through it. Deal with it. I think it's kind of rad. It's badass. I dig it. I think the smaller stripes, and whoever is upset about the color, we made a slight hue change in the red for kind of the similar reason you're discussing. It's because ours is when you sweat in it, it made it look maroon. And so we made a little bit of a change on that. And then people were saying, you're messing with our history. We're 2 years old.
You don't have history.
Let's put that off to the side. We still got the stripes. There's still the 5 stripes in the badge. This is a fight that's not worth having. They look awesome, and it's fine. It's Jeb Hart approved. I ordered one the night of it. I actually got an email today that it shipped, and that was weeks later. So, way to go, MLS. But I have a serious bone to pick with Adidas as a whole. In addition to what we were talking about earlier, how lazy and derivative the designs are between. I mean, if you hold them all up, there's 5 of them that the Colorado, yours, I forget the other 2. I think the Quakes. They're just white T-shirts with logos on them, and it's just unbelievable. That's the laziest thing I've ever seen. But more so than that, they just completely stopped making long sleeve kits.
Yeah,
completely.
I know a lot of people that were really upset by that.
Ronaldo, they will not. Juventus is Adidas team. They will not make one for Ronaldo, and because he always played and I know Greg Garza's pissed because he was always, even in 98-degree heat at Bobby Dodd Stadium, he played in long sleeves. Always has. Now he's got to wear the. It's a weird, strange business move to do because it doesn't. They have factories and stuff. It doesn't seem like it's a huge production to add a couple more. It's a weird situation.
Yep. I agree. I can't figure out the business logic behind that. I mean, unless you're selling 10 of them a year or something and you say it doesn't make sense, but you're obviously selling more than that or nobody be talking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Completely agree. Like I said, and this is a nice segue to kind of the end portion of it, of our bridging teams together. Greg Garza, a gentleman who will no longer allowed to be wearing long sleeves due to a terrible business decision. You see how we circle this all around? We're thinking it through. Greg Garza, we miss him dearly. He is, I think if I was going to start a expansion team, I don't think if I could think of a better person to be there. I mean, if I could start an expansion team and you can give me Lionel Messi or something, I'd take him over. But, I mean, realistically speaking, I can't think of a better person I'd have. He's a 27-year-old who speaks 4 languages. He can relate to the older people. He can relate to the younger people. He can relate to the English speakers. He can relate to the Spanish speakers. He can bridge this divide and be this sort of glue within a, new club that I think however much money you're paying him and how much we were paying him at the time he was doing it for us wasn't enough for the real impact he had within that locker room. And I think that really, really will pay dividends in the long term because he truly is – his skill set that he possesses off the pitch in the dressing room is something that you really can't, you put pen and paper to and say this is how much that's worth.
Oh, absolutely. And, obviously when you're building a new team, you're looking to bring in people who are going to step into leadership roles. And he's obviously one of those players. I mean, you can just tell when you talk to him, when you listen to him speak. The multiple languages is obviously important. We have a lot of players who speak different languages. So that's going to be helpful. But I think, even just his experience on the pitch, right? I mean, he's played quite a while. I mean, he's not old, but he's not young, so he has that experience and still can contribute. And then at the same time, he's got national team experience. He's going to bring a calm and a confidence to this club that we need. I'm really looking forward to seeing him get out there and helping kind of shore things up and get people kind of working together and getting a little more confident in what's going on. So he's going to be a big asset to us, I'm pretty sure.
Well, we miss him dearly. I know you went to the player meet and greet the other day, and the Bill told him to say that Jeb said hi. What did he say?
Well, he kind of was like, "Oh, great," but that was about it. Because I hate to tell you, there was like 1,000 people there, and we were literally like just going by in a line, so it was pretty short. But
he told him Jeb said hi.
Yeah, he did recognize Atlanta United TV, so
Well, allow me to tell you what kind of a guy you were getting, Cincinnati. I have never met Greg Garza in my life, but he was kind enough to humor me, and that's the type of fella he is. So embrace him with open arms in the Queen City because he is a gem.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, we just did an interview of him on YouTube, obviously going to Atlanta. We want to talk to a guy from Atlanta. He was absolutely he spoke very highly of the club. He spoke very highly of the fans. He was asked what kind of response are you expecting, and he's like, man, I really hope it's good. I had a great time there and I really enjoyed it. I hope nobody boos for me or anything when I get there. And then they said, of course, you're going to get your big ring, and is that going to be really awkward? And he's like, I don't know, we'll see. But if he's starting and he's wearing the wrong uniform, it might be a little weird, but we'll see how it all goes. But he's hoping you guys still love him. So
if there was Vegas odds on what the reception would be, I would bet my house on a standing ovation for it. I mean, since we're so young, we have a soft spot for players that have moments or Yamil Assad is still universally loved. Like there's still subreddits about how can we finagle Yamil Assad back here. I mean, people, because he scored our first goal, and people like him because he has adorable ears. Like he will be greeted with because as soon as that happened and that was like the semi-start of what could potentially be a rivalry. Because I do know that when we found out he was traded was on the MLS, the draft show, and I know that Darren Eales was pissed. Like, he was not happy about the way that went down because he wanted, Greg to know, and then he wanted everyone else to know what was going on. That did not sit well with him, which is another reason I'm kind of leaning more towards them putting a little bit better lineup out there, because Darren Eales is a very petty man, and I think that really genuinely did piss him off.
Yeah, it's funny. These teams, they definitely get very excited about their signings and who gets to say what first and all that stuff. So, yeah, I kind of agree that it seems like the team who is letting the player go kind of should lead that a little bit, right? There's sort of sensitivity in that. I mean, you got families, you got fans, you got other people involved. Obviously, on our side, we were just excited to hear his name, and probably didn't notice that we jumped the gun on that one, but.
Well, I didn't notice either. I was just watching on my phone at the office just to see, hopefully no Atlanta United players got picked. So I got to the very end of it, and I was like, sweet, we're done. Clear, all and well. Yeah. Like, I was about to turn it off, and he was like, also, we got Greg Garza. And I was like, son of a bitch. That was trade. Like, yeah. It's this, like, I took this big sigh of relief, and then as I was about to hang up the phone, and we've traded for Greg Garza, and like I'd already signed, so I couldn't exhale because it was all gone. That was a rough day for me. I appreciate your sympathy. Well, man, I know you're going to be at the game in Atlanta. I hope you really enjoy your time. at Mercedes-Benz. It's always good to have more competition, more quality teams with good fan bases, and solid coverage as y'all clearly have at Cincy Sports Talk Radio, Cincy Soccer Talk, and I look forward to the many games to come in the future, and we wish y'all nothing but the best in building your franchise and while working your way into this league. I think y'all are doing it the right way. I think that every interaction I've had with every fan of y'all's on whether it be Twitter or Instagram, whatever, they've been nothing but kind and complimentary, and I hope that this season is something that y'all will all remember for a very, very long time.
We're looking forward to it so much, and never fear, we have some crazy fans out there that'll probably piss you off at some point, but yeah, all in all, I think we tend to be very hospitable. I'm very excited to be down at Mercedes-Benz and experience that, get to see your fans, your stadium. I know your supporters group has actually invited fans to come to their tailgate, so very hospitable. Atlanta is going to be a great time, I'm sure.
They try, but outside of very few exceptions, we always try to have the traveling fans come down and be a part of the things we do in the Gulch, and it's going to change in a little bit when that gets sold and it's the Home Depot backyard. But Southern hospitality, sometimes people throw it out as a trope, but it really is something we take pride in, because if we're all part of in Atlanta, obviously it's 72,000 people there at the time, or 45, whatever it may be. But either way, we're still part of a small group of people that truly love this game. And if you're coming and driving or flying from Cincinnati to come down here to see your team that you love, we see a kindred aspect in that and respect it very much and want y'all to have a great time in our city. So I hope to see you down there, and the best of luck with the season. Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And this is the part where I press pause, but this is called uncut, so I can't cut it without moving forward. Cheers, guys. No problem.